I don't see that. The United States has extended for many years, extended deterrence, which is kind of code word for we'll back you up with nuclear weapons. It was reaffirmed either last year or the year before. There's more strategic planning going on between the countries. So I don't see the need. I think North Korea recognizes that the United States umbrella protection is there, as do their benefactors in Moscow and Beijing. So I don't see it as necessary. I think so. I think they should count on, again, United States protection. I think we would obviously be engaged far earlier than that to prevent that never happens. But I think it's two things. It's real, it's credible, and it's capable. And those are the two important elements that are vital to deterrence. So again, I think the North Koreans recognize that. And, the South Koreans have a very capable military too, keep in mind, and a very large presence on the peninsula quite naturally. So I think, in many ways, deterrence is balanced both conventionally and nuclearly, if that's a word. And I think the cooperation between the ROK forces and U.S. forces on the peninsula has never been better in many ways. Well, I guess you'd have to define for me, or they would have to define for me what nuclear sharing is. I'm not sure I know what that is. I think the summit was important. I think the declaration was important. You mentioned our NATO allies. The best that we do with our NATO allies is position tactical nuclear weapons in some parts of Europe. But beyond that, they are retained under U.S. control, and it would be a U.S. decision to deploy them or not. The one that often comes up is percent of your budget spent on defense. And for South Korea, I give the ROK government, President Yoon credit. I think it's 2.6% of GDP is spent on defense, which is higher than most of our NATO allies. So I think that's great. The last estimates when I was in office was that the host nation burden shouldered by South Korea was around 30%. And I think what most South Koreans don't appreciate, that an overwhelming majority of that goes back into the economy, either through installation support or Korean workers on military bases. And my view is, if you want to be fair about it, I think that relationship should start more closely to 50-50. But also Korean leaders as well, to explain what this commitment means and how host nation supports the mutual security, if not primarily the security of South Korea. And it's not going to the U.S. Treasury. It's not, Seoul's not writing checks to Washington. Rather, it's in many cases going back into the economy. And certainly, I think it's a good price, if you will, for that type of deterrence to have U.S. forces on the peninsula.